From a supposed hitman plot to a very uncomfortable moment in the courtroom involving an assault rifle, here are some things about the Alex Murdaugh case that have been keeping us up at night. When police arrived after Alex Murdaugh called 911 to report what had happened to his wife and son, Alex asserted that they were harmed as a response to another headline-making incident the family was involved in, the February 2019 boating accident that claimed the life of 19-year-old Mallory Beach. Paul Murdaugh and several friends, including Beach, had been using the Murdaugh's boat when it crashed into a bridge, sending the young woman and others into the water. Beach's body was found a week later, and the cause of death was determined to be drowning and blunt force trauma. Paul was reportedly driving the boat and was said to be intoxicated and behaving erratically. His blood alcohol was captured at 0.24 while in the hospital hours after the accident. Despite being charged later with felony counts of boating under the influence, Paul never spent any time in jail. He was out on bond at the time of his 2021 death. Body camera footage from the scene of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh's killing showed Alex blaming the deaths on the boating accident.
This is a long story. My son was in a boat wreck a few months back. He's been getting threats.
1 year before the boating accident and 3 years before the fatal shooting of Maggie and Paul, the Murdaugh family was involved with the death of another individual, their longtime housekeeper Gloria Satterfield, which occurred on the Murdaugh's property. Satterfield died in February 2018 at the age of 57 after reportedly tripping over one of the Murdaugh's dogs and falling downstairs. Alex reached out to the Satterfield family after Gloria's funeral, encouraging them to cash in with his homeowner's insurance providers. Ultimately, a multi-million-dollar settlement was reached with the insurance company, a settlement that Satterfield's next of kin would later claim they were unaware of. Gloria's son Tony eventually called for his mother's body to be exhumed, as he and others questioned the conclusions that the Murdaughs and the authorities made regarding the precise nature of her death. Satterfield's death wasn't the only one that came into question after the Murdaugh family entered the spotlight. There was also the mysterious death of 19-year-old Stephen Smith, whose body was found on a South Carolina roadside in July 2015. At the time, Smith's death was ruled a hit-and-run, despite a lack of evidence at the scene, something his mother didn't believe for a second.
He had some defense wounds on him. His shoes were still on.
Smith's car was found some 3 miles away with the gas cap dangling. Years later, as Alex faced charges in the killing of his wife and son, Smith's untimely death received renewed attention from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, due to the Murdaugh name having come up during interviews with investigators on the earlier case. Hampton County Guardian editor Michael DeWitt Jr. said that he had heard unsubstantiated rumors that a Murdaugh child had killed a young man by striking him with a baseball bat. The outlet further noted that the name of Buster Murdaugh, Alex's sole surviving son, appeared in the original case file multiple times. During the proceedings of Alex's murder trial, investigators from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division gave testimony about the usage of Maggie's phone on the night she was killed. According to a source within law enforcement who talked with People magazine, it was revealed that Maggie sent messages to a friend that night as she headed to Moselle, saying that something felt off about Alex's behavior. She reportedly wrote in a text, "He's up to something." Earlier that night, Alex called his wife to the property, telling her that his father, Randolph, was in poor health and that she needed to see him before he died. Hours later, Maggie was shot and killed along with her son near the dog kennels at the family's Colleton County Lodge. According to People's unnamed source, Maggie initially declined to meet her husband. Other reports have alleged the couple was going through marriage difficulties, and Maggie was staying at their beach house an hour away from their estate. Alleged financial crimes involving his clients and related financial settlements were a key component of the prosecution's case against Alex. During the trial, lead prosecutor Creighton Waters argued that Alex killed his wife and son to gain sympathy and buy himself time to contend with a crumbling financial situation. Jean Seckinger, the CFO of Alex's former law firm, testified that she confronted Alex about nearly $800,000 in missing client settlement money on the morning of Maggie and Paul's slaying. Eventually, Alex would tearfully plead guilty to 22 counts of financial fraud and money laundering. He admitted to funneling settlement money through a dummy bank account he opened to hide and launder the funds. When addressing the victims of his financial crimes, he said,
"I am so sorry that I let you down."
In September 2021, Alex was shot and injured on a South Carolina roadside. A passing motorist saw a bloodied, panicking Alex and called 911 to report what they saw, but didn't stop to offer any assistance themselves because something seemed off about the situation. A woman said in the 911 call that they didn't stop because, quote, "it kinda looks like a setup." Apparently, they were onto something. Alec was ultimately charged with insurance fraud, conspiracy, and filing a false police report. His defense attorney, Dick Harpootlian, told the court that as Alec's drug problem got worse and depression set in, he decided that it was his time to die, so he arranged for someone to kill him. This way, his surviving son Buster could collect a $10 million life insurance policy. Alec thought that suicide could be an exclusion from his policy. However, the shot only grazed Alec's head and he survived. A distant cousin of Alex, Curtis Edward Smith, was ultimately accused of firing the shot. For his part, Smith maintained that he had not shot Alec and was instead trying to prevent him from shooting himself. During the trial, Alec's skeletons continually came out of the closet, including the fact that he was spending $50,000 per week on opioids. The amount of drugs he claimed to have ingested was as staggering as the amount of money he spent on getting them. When he took the stand, Alec recalled how there were some days when he would take up to 60 oxycodone pills. The Murdaugh patriarch also blamed his proven false statements to investigators on a paranoid state of mind caused by his drug use.
As my addiction evolved over time, I would get in these situations or circumstances where I would get paranoid.
He went on to say,
I wasn't thinking clearly. I don't think I was capable of reason.
For someone who was a practicing attorney and descended from generations of prominent law practitioners, Alex's testimony during his own murder trial was so bad that it may have cost him his freedom. Jury consultant Alan Turkheimer argued to CNN, his testimony was very poor. In fact, I think it was borderline atrocious. Defense attorney Misty Maris also offered her analysis to CNN, saying, for him, the chance of convincing one or two jurors that he might be a liar, he might be a thief, but he's not a killer was worth taking that risk. But in my opinion, the testimony was what actually sunk him. Amidst a divulgence of many of his secrets, including his addiction, Alec had to answer to a video that his son Paul filmed on his phone mere moments before his death. This video contained audio that witnesses and prosecutors said captured Alec's voice, which contradicted his previous statements that he was nowhere near the scene at the time of their deaths. While testifying, Alec ultimately admitted that he lied about when he had last seen Paul and Maggie before supposedly discovering their bodies. While his admission that he was near where his wife and son were killed was a key moment during the murder trial, some believe that the former attorney actually confessed to the killings before the trial even began. A South Carolina investigator testified during the trial that Alec uttered an incriminating phrase during questioning, which was played for the courtroom.
It was just so bad. They did it so bad.
At this point in the trial, Senior Special Agent Jeff Croft gave his opinion of what was said. Alec could reportedly be seen shaking his head in response. It was contended by the defense that Alec actually said they did him so bad. However, as reported by South Carolina Public Radio, Croft further stated that he was 100% confident that Alec said I. The agent claimed that he didn't follow up on the statement at the time because it was early in the investigation, so he didn't want to lose Alec's cooperation. Despite the particularly heinous way in which Maggie and Paul died, the prosecutors in the case opted not to seek the death penalty. Instead, they went for life without parole. In the wake of Alec's conviction, Judge Clifton Newman, who presided over the murder trial, commented on the prosecution's decision to forego the pursuit of capital punishment. He said, I don't question at all the decision of the state not to pursue the death penalty, but I sit here and reflect on the fact that over the past century, your family, including you, have been prosecuting people in this courtroom, and many have received the death penalty, probably for lesser conduct. Part of what made the Alex Murdaugh trial such a source of fascination for the general public was the myriad of twists, turns, and bizarre behavior of the characters involved. However, those things weren't generated solely by the Murdaughs themselves. The attorneys and even the court officials involved in the case had their own missteps and memorable moments. One such incident, falling into both of those categories, occurred when Alec's defense attorney, Dick Harpootlian, pointed an assault rifle at the prosecution inside the courthouse. He did this while attempting to show jurors the shooter's stance while questioning a forensics expert about Maggie's killing. According to the New York Post, he reportedly said, "Tempting. I don't know how I can do this, so I'm not pointing at somebody." Afterward, Harpootlian was criticized online for the incident. One person wrote on X, "That is disgusting, especially in a horrific double murder case. What is wrong with people? How can this be silly banter in this gruesome case?" As explosive as the Murdaugh trial was, the possible presence of actual explosives brought the proceedings to a screeching halt at one point. Colleton County Courthouse personnel received a bomb threat via phone in February 2023, just as a witness was about to take the stand. The threat prompted a full evacuation of the facility.
When we were out here, we were kind of allowed to be on the grass on the lawn close to the building, and then quickly after that, they started pushing us across the street where we are now.
After police dogs were brought in to sweep the building and the all-clear was given, court staff and attorneys returned to the courtroom 2 hours after Judge Clifton Newman announced the evacuation. Colleton County Court Clerk Becky Hill was a prominent figure throughout the Murdaugh trial, as well as the Netflix documentary that it spawned. However, her involvement in the case ultimately resulted in her own set of highly publicized legal troubles. Hill was formally charged in May 2025 with perjury, obstruction of justice, and misconduct in office. Arrest warrants filed against Hill alleged she abused her office for financial gain after she promoted a book she wrote about the case, Behind the Doors of Justice: The Murdaugh Murders, via social media. She was also accused of obstructing justice by releasing evidence photos to third parties, giving false and misleading testimony amid Murdaugh's appeal, and receiving financial bonuses totaling roughly $12,000. Hill was released on an over $80,000 bond for her charges, and the case is ongoing as of this video.